Welcome to the NPTE podcast for physical therapists preparing to sit for the National Physical Therapy exam. From case studies to content review, we have you covered.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the NPTE podcast. This is Will Crane, your host. Thank you so much for joining me as we go through the content you need to know in order to absolutely dominate on test day. So, as we get started today, we'll be talking about some common questions. I'm broadcasting this to you on site at the Combined Sections meeting of San Diego 2023. And I've got a bunch of questions that I've been receiving over the last couple of days. And I just wanted to talk about some common questions and some things that maybe you would enjoy as we talk about what you need to do in order to absolutely crush the NPTE. But before we do so, I just want to say thanks. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for the effort you put into this. And I know that it's tough. I know that there are good days and bad days, but just stick with it. It's something that's very, very, very useful and very good to do. And really anything worthwhile usually takes quite a bit of effort. And so this definitely fits into that category of requiring a significant amount of effort, but is definitely worth it. I talked to a lot of third-year students, and I remember having this experience when I was in my third year that I was carrying a full caseload. At my last two clinical affiliations, I was carrying a full caseload, really seeing, billing a full day's work as a PT. And I remember having to pay for that experience. You're paying tuition in order to have that clinical experience. And I recall feeling a little bit of angst saying, this is, I can't wait to get to the other side of this. And it's true. It was really a remarkable feeling when I finally got to the cash positive side of things, when instead of paying to work, I got paid to work. And so that's something to look forward to. Definitely a big milestone in my life. And I would just point out that that's coming, that it may not be there yet for you if you're still in your second or third year. You're working like crazy at your clinicals, but that day will come. And thanks for the effort you put into studying. I know that it's a hard and difficult process to study, but thanks for what you do. Sure appreciate that. So as we get started, we'll be talking about some of the common questions that I've been receiving over the last couple of days. Kind of fun to hear what other students are asking. We can talk about that. So the first one we'll talk about is, when should I begin studying? And this is in the context of what time frame should you begin your final preparations for the NPTE. Now, generally speaking, it is quite dependent on what your clinical schedule and work schedule looks like. However, as a general rule, I do suggest that you start about 10 to 12 weeks ahead of time. And so this gives you about a 3-month window of pretty dedicated studying. It's a great way to have ample time, but not get too much time. Now, granted, there will be certainly cases where you'll have more time. Perhaps you'll have 6 months to prepare. Other times where you'll only have 6 weeks to prepare. But as a general rule, in that 10 to 12 week mark, that's a good place to start, because it gives you ample time, but not too much time. Because it is very true that the more time we have, the more time we waste. And so if you really try to lock it in 6 months ahead of time, a lot of times that tends to usually disappear out of your brain. And you should learn things. It's not like you should totally forget everything you learned in school and only start studying 3 months ahead of time. But I'm talking about that last really earnest preparation. And we try to time all of our courses around that window of about 3 months until 3 months before your anticipated NPTE date. So a lot of you are in your final clinicals as you head into that third year, and so you'll have some variability there. But generally speaking, about 3 months. Now, one of the things that I do like to, and you've probably heard me say this in other episodes too, but I like to say that, so right now as I record this, we're in February, and I've been talking to a lot of students who are testing in July. And this was some advice I gave to some students, is that you want to make sure that the July version of yourself thanks the February version of yourself. Meaning that while you were in your clinical in February, did you put together a few flashcards? Did you do a few things so that you wouldn't forget what you had learned? That way you didn't have quite as much of a crunch time when it comes to July. And so it's just that forethought that comes as you consider all the things that you could and should be doing. You just, you try to make sure that the July version of yourself would go back and thank the February version of yourself for what you were doing now. So when should you begin studying? When should you begin? About 3 months, 10 to 12 weeks ahead of time is usually a good target. Second question we get is, what is the crash course? So the crash course, this is maybe our most popular offering, is a 3-week refresher on cardio, musculo, and neuro, the biggest systems on the exam. Now, the reason we chose that for the topics of the crash course is because that's what represents 75% of the test. Now, I've had probably a dozen students stop by at our booth to say that the crash course is what saved their bacon, that they were studying and then they did the crash course. It kept them organized and pushed them through those big sections again. And they said that it was remarkable. They got in on the test and all the things that we had told them started to show up in test questions. Now, it's not because we're particularly remarkable in our premonitions of what's on the test. Rather, it's just what's commonly tested. And so we talk about what's commonly tested and how to answer that. And I even had one student, she was telling about how a lot of the things that we talked about in the crash course that her program either had forgotten to tell her or that it was just not emphasized. And so she was just so glad that she had that last refresher on some things that literally she did not have familiarity with, which led to a better performance on the test. So the crash course is meant to be a quick and very easy and inexpensive review. We try to do it just drinking from the fire hose. You've got lots of content. You've only got a couple of weeks before test day. We try to hit the most commonly asked questions in cardio, musculo, and neuro. Another question we got is, how many practice exams do we have to offer? So currently we have 6 published PT practice exams and 5 PTA practice exams. Now, those of you listening to this far down the road from February 2023, we are working on doubling that number, so we'll be working in that direction. So we will have quite a number of practice questions for you. We have it in a very handy exam simulator, which gives you an opportunity to build quizzes based on your desired topic. So that's the cool part about the exams and the exam simulator we have is that I remember talking to a professor yesterday that a lot of the other programs that exist out there, they give you 2, maybe 3 practice exams. And when I told her that we had 6 practice exams, I about had to peel her off the floor that she couldn't believe it. 6 exams? Yep, we got 6 exams and currently working on more. So again, those of you listening down the road, you'll see that we have even more practice exams available to you. Another question that came to me was, well, how do you develop the questions? Well, we develop the questions just like they do on the FSBPT. You have an initial draft that's created based on a textbook reference. So you try to frame it in a clinical question. Textbook reference, you try to make it not so easy that you can just guess the answer, but not so hard that it's way out of left field. You want to make sure that it's pertinent and relevant to entry-level practice. And then it goes through 3 different editing review processes to make sure that it is some cohesion to it, that it's clearly written. And then certainly, I like to say this little caveat, I've written many, many questions, and I like to think that we can write good questions, but we've also written some crummy ones in the past. And so we do rely on student feedback as well to point out maybe things that we hadn't thought about. But it makes for a well-oiled and very honed machine when it comes to exam preparation, an exam question preparation, I should say. So that's how many exams we have in a handy exam simulator. You can check that all out at ptfinalexam.com. You can find our PT or PTA exams, which are, I like to think, very handy and very much, you get a lot of bang for your buck when it comes to our practice exams. Another question I get is, how is your course, how is PT Final Exam different than your regular 2-day weekend preparation course? So you'll notice that a lot of schools do use a 2-day weekend preparation course, and there's nothing wrong with a 2-day deal. Personally speaking, I find that sitting and listening to the same person for 2 full days, 2 8-hour days, they make for very long days. And so I like to do our preparation when we do teach at universities. I like to make it a bit more spaced out, try to make it so that as you study, that it's not all just combined into one weekend. Rather, if we do come to campus, if we get invited to campus and the university purchases that package, we come for 1 day, and then we follow that up with a 2-month, essentially 2 months of mentored learning. We have synchronous and asynchronous content, goes through the content outline of the FSBPT, talks about practice questions, but it also gives you time to come up with the questions that the students have, meaning that you have, rather than just throw it all at them in 2 days, you've got 2 months for them to really digest it, to work through it. It very much is like a university course that you have access to our workbook. So we give assignments out of the workbook and readings out of our study guide. I mean, really, it's a very robust package. It comes with all of our exams, comes with access to the crash course. I mean, all told, again, this same professor that I was talking to about the number of exams, as I kept talking about Well, not only do we come for, it's not just a 2-day deal and we say good luck, rather it's a 2-month deal and we are mentoring the students through. We have, again, when a university purchases our package, we have an instructor that is dedicated to that cohort. And so rather than like pile them in with 500 other students or just toss them in for 2 days, we have 2 months where there's an instructor who knows them and really gets to have a lot of interaction with the students, so that mentored learning really takes place. And that's how we're really different than a 2-day prep course. Again, there's nothing wrong with 2-day. It's just that we like to space it out, and then we can have it be more timely. So we can have because we do the 2-month sessions online, then it makes it so we can do it either during or after your clinicals. We could do it in a more timely time frame right before your actual test. And then you get complimentary access to the crash course if you get one of those university packages. And so all told, between the exams, the written material, the mentored class, and the crash course, the on-campus, it really is a very robust package. And we try to keep things extremely simple when it comes to pricing for that. It's just $100, $200, or $300 per student, depending on what package you sign up for. And so we try to, again, be very competitive in our pricing, but also offer way more than you get at some of the other programs you can get out there. So if you do have any questions about that, again, you can head over to ptfinalexam.com, hit the contact tab, or you can email us directly, will@ptfinalexam.com. Another great way to get in contact, and we can get you set up or have a conference call with your university and talk about how to get it set up for your exam day. So another question I get is, what data do you have regarding your program? So regarding PT Final Exam, what data do you have? Well, typically speaking, when we come in and work with a university, we typically see a first-time pass rate increase between 5 and 10%, depending on where the student or where the pass rate was previously. So a lot of times, maybe our most classic ones, we go from about 88, 87% pass rates to over 95% pass rate. So again, pushing on 10% increase in first-time pass rates. For those who sign up just in our public classes or in our general classes, we typically have an over 90% pass rate, with the caveat that those are the people that actually show up to class and do what we ask them to do. I do always put an asterisk there to say, well, there are some people, it puzzles me to no end, but they'll sign up for the class, they won't attend any classes or do anything we tell them, and then they'll take the test and they'll be surprised that they maybe didn't pass the test. And it just, well, we can only do so much. But yes, typically speaking, those who are full participants in the class have an over 90% pass rate, plus those who involve us in their university programs see a very substantial increase in their first-time pass rates. And we've even posted several 100% first-time pass rates, which the universities are very, very happy about. Because what was it, just a year or two ago, the FSBPT began requiring that schools publish their first-time pass rate rather than their just global pass rate. Because I had I guess not to get on too much of a tangent, but I did have a school that I talked to a while back that their posted ultimate pass rate was something like 99%, but they called me and said, hey, we need help getting students across the finish line, which I was puzzled by. And they said, yeah, it's our first-time pass rate is just the pits. It takes us forever to get students across, and we need to get it faster so that they can graduate and get out into the workforce as quickly as possible. And so we worked with them, and they did see, again, a substantial increase in their first-time pass rate. And then finally, the last question I get is, all right, so we're on a student budget. Do you have student discounts? And that one always makes me smile because we deal exclusively with students. And so, yes, our typical pricing is student pricing. That being said, if you get a group together, we do offer significant discounts on all of our products. So with our crash course, you can get a very significant discount if you get 5 or more from your cohort. So we try to make it super easy. So let's say you're a class president and you're like, yeah, this crash course sounds pretty good. How do I get a discount? Well, contact us and we can get you a discount code, which then you'll share. And as long as you have 5 or more students in your class willing to sign up for it, you'll get that very significant discount on our crash course. Same thing for all of our other courses, like all the way through our premium, our independent classes, and then even the VIP class. if you get groups of 5 or more, we can do discounts for you. And so just again, head over to ptfinalexam.com/contact, or you can email me directly, will@ptfinalexam.com, and you can track down some discounts when you have groups of students getting together. And again, we try to make it extremely economical. We recognize you're on a tight student budget. You've been getting student loans. Like it's hard to make ends meet. And so we want to make sure that you're getting the very best deal possible. And again, try to make that as simple as possible too. Again, that's something I've noticed about perhaps some of the other companies out there, that you have to jump through a lot of hoops and you're not quite sure what you're getting. But in our case, I like to be very simple and straightforward, that if you can get a group, we'll get you a sweet discount. Because, honestly speaking, we're incentivized on our end that if we get more students in the class, then we're able to more easily pay our instructors. We're able to make it work better as far as the business goes, but it also, we want to make sure that it benefits the students as well. So if you do have a group, or if you're a class president, or even if you just want to organize it, and I always tease that, we want to make sure that we get as many students sign up as possible, because again, it makes it not only for our benefit, but for your benefit, you get that discount, which is significant. And again, that's what I get asked all the time is, Will, where's your student discounts? Well, our posted prices are the student discount, but we do offer significant discounts for groups. If you can get groups together, especially if you get 10 or 20 or more, then we're talking about some significant discount. So there you go. There are some common questions that are asked about the NPTE and about specifically about PT final exam. And I know that as you're listening to this, I talked to a lot of students. In fact, several dozen students stopped by to say, hey, yeah, we listened to the podcast. Really enjoy that. And it means a lot to me, because it takes time and effort to get these episodes out, to write these practice questions. I had one student stop by. He's like, do you write these questions? Well, yeah, try to write these questions. And it takes some time and effort to get this out. And again, it's something that I enjoy, and it does help our business at PT Final Exam. But one thing that you can do for us, and I know I've asked it of you in previous episodes, but if you don't mind, just take a moment, head over to, it only takes just a very brief moment, leave us a 5-star review. You just don't even have to write anything. You just click 5 stars, and it just helps in the algorithms, helps us get in the charts so that we can help other students pass. Maybe my favorite example from yesterday was, we had a student, a very, very nice young woman. She had taken our class a couple years ago, and she was just almost in tears. She came up, it's like, I'm so grateful to meet you in person, that I failed my first attempt on the exam and I just didn't know what to do. I was worried and upset, and I signed up for your class. And in this case, she was talking about our VIP class. I signed up for your class and I worked steadily through it. I went through everything, and I took the exam the second time, and you wouldn't believe it, I got a 798. I was 2 points away from a perfect score. So she went from sub 600. She didn't, I don't recall the number she said. She didn't pass on her first attempt. So below 600 to a 798. And she was just in tears. She couldn't believe it. All of her friends were just in tears around her too, as she was reading her score report when she got it. And she was just so grateful that she was able to begin working. She held her head up like she had accomplished something very, very good. And she told me, and it touched my heart so much. And I wish that I could have bottled it up and had it recorded for you all, because I just enjoyed it so much. But she just said, thanks for what you do. It really meant a lot to her. And it's something that really drives us forward here at PT Final Exam, is that I know that when a person fails a test or is worried about it, that it can be helpful to have a guiding hand, helpful to have a hopefully, I like to think of a hand with experience to be able to get you through the test, to guide you through it. I know a lot of you who are listening to this, really we get to know each other as you're listening to all these episodes. And I just want to say thanks to you for your trust that you put in us. And I will deliver on that with practice questions and everything you need to know, just to, as I like to talk about at the top of each show, to dominate or crush the test, knock the socks off the test, whatever analogy you want. I just want to make sure that you're having as good of an experience as possible. So there you go. Those are the common questions I've been receiving over at CSM. If you are attending Combined Sections meeting in the future, be sure to stop by. We usually have some fun gifts and swag for former students, for current students. Anyway, please stop by. I think you'll enjoy saying hello and getting to know the team over at PT Final Exam. So if you are at CSM, be sure to stop by and say hi. So With that, we'll bring today to a conclusion. As always, thanks for what you do. Appreciate that. As we go through this podcast, we'll be going through more on the FSBPT content outline, and then again, a little preview for 2024. We will have more content and updates regarding the 2024 updates, and just try to bring you the most up-to-date content so you'll be ready for test day. So with that, we'll bring today to a conclusion. Thank you all for what you do. Will Crane fist bumps all around. I'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks.
This podcast was sponsored by PT Final Exam, an awesome resource for NPTE preparation. From live courses to university cohorts, PT Final Exam has a package to suit everyone's needs. Head over to ptfinalexam.com to see the wide variety of NPTE preparation options.